thank you guys for what you do to cover our team, to share our stories. I think you guys would say that we have a good relationship, and I think that's important. But it's not because of me. It's more because of you guys having good personalities and being pretty easy to get along with every day. We're excited this spring. We have a number of guys on our team who are new to our team in the last few months. We have guys on our team who have put themselves in position to find bigger roles on this team. We also have a smaller group of guys who we feel are in a position to put themselves in, and they've worked themselves to this place, put themselves in position to be amongst the elite in college football this season. And some of those guys, in my mind, guys like Avery Johnson and Marquis Siegel and Brendan Mott and Garrett Oakley and Austin Moore, Jacob Parish, DJ Giddens, Keegan Johnson, Hallie Panzer, Keenan Garber, Jaden Jackson. Those are the names that come to mind in terms of guys who, some who have played on this team but are in those positions, like I said, to be really good players in college football. And some of those guys are stepping into roles where they are expanding their position on this team, and we really are excited about being able to lean in on those guys, not only for their play on the field, but for their leadership in the locker room. And so we're excited about the short term we've been in the spring so far, and we're excited. Other names that I didn't mention, we're excited about what's happening in our locker room. We're excited about what has happened on the field so far as we continue to grow as a team. We as a staff, we're driven to continue to push our guys to be excellent on and off the field, just for excellence sake, just because that is, as we've been here for 5, going on 6 years, that's been the key to our success, is that we pay attention to the details and that we push our guys as a staff. We've pushed our guys to be the best that they can be on and off the field. A lot of coaches may talk about that, but that's really a part of the foundation of our program. And I would say that's been a part of the threads of Kansas State football before we got here. And so we're excited about having a great group of young men in the locker room who buy into those ideals and who push one another for that excellence, just like we push them in that way. I normally come in here and have a long, extended pre-press conference speech. I guess that's what I call it. But it won't be that long today. I just have one more thing that kind of touched me. I was reading an article the other day, and it talked about the fact that there are major football programs across the country that have never had a coach of color in a leadership position, never had a coach of color as a coordinator, offensive or defensive, and never had a coach of color in a head coaching position. And it just made me think about my role here and what my role has been over the last few years. And it made me think about the incredible support that I've gotten from Coach Kleiman, our head coach, that I've gotten from Gene Taylor, our athletic director, even from President Linton. And it just made me realize how incredibly blessed I am to be at Kansas State, because when you look at Kansas State's record in terms of diversity and hiring and its athletic department and the university as a whole, it's an outstanding record. And so I am excited and proud to say that here at Kansas State in our athletic department and our university, our words, they really match our actions when it comes to diversity. And being a coach of color that has come to be a part of, in my latter stages of my career, has come to be a part of something that I think is important to always pay attention to. And with all that, I'll open it up to you, wonderful gentlemen, for questions.
In regards to your guy, Jacob Parish, coming in his third year in the program, what are you looking from him specifically to take that next step?
Well, I've said it before with Jacob specifically, is that he's not a much of a talker. He's not a loud guy. But I've continued since he's been here to demand more from him from a leadership standpoint, and he's given me that. He gave me that last season. He gave me that this off season, and he's given me that so far this spring. There's moments in our position where he stands up and he says things when things are not going exactly the way they should be. He says things when he wants to get the guys together and do extra things. He voices that. He doesn't wait for someone else to take the lead on those things, as he has been able to do in the past. And so I'm really looking forward to Jacob to continue in that way. So on the field, man, he's a phenomenal player. But I think the mark of a great leader is to make the rest of the people in the room, is to raise their level of preparation, is to raise their level of understanding, is to push them to be more than they can be. And that's kind of what I'm seeing from him at this moment.
As the quarterbacks coach, how much tougher this spring are the wide receivers to cover, and how far have they come along?
Well, they're always tough. I think we have a really good group of wide receivers, but what we've done is we've infused that group with some younger guys and with some experienced guys from the transfer portal, and so it's continually a challenge just because they have guys who challenge you in different ways. You have the smaller receivers. Sterling Lockett, he definitely won't like when I call him smaller. But then you have the bigger, the Andre Johnson guys that you have to be. Andre Johnson, wow, I'm thinking of university. Yeah, him too. Andre Davis. You have those guys who are more challenging on the line of scrimmage, more difficult to be able to get your hands on them, to be able to restrict their movement. And so as they continually develop, it is, like you said, has become more and more of a challenge this spring. But what I talk to the cornerbacks about is we are doing everything we can to be iron as we sharpen them and they sharpen us. And Coach Middleton does a great job with them. So we love the work that we get every day because it makes us better. And as I am coming into their receivers position room, I talk about how if they didn't have us, they wouldn't be as good as they are. So we have a lot of fun with that part of it.
Coach, the helmet communication system, I think it's still just a proposal at this standpoint, but what kind of discussions have you had about that and how you proceed with using that?
Well, continuing to find out exactly how the rules will lay out is something that, we're going to have to do. But with us as a staff, understanding that something is going to happen, we've talked to our players about it. We've talked to our players about understanding that the communication could be different. Of course, we always will have the option to signal to our players as we always have, but having them understand that it'll be just a little bit different, right, based on how the rules will lay out. But they see it, they read about it, they know that something is coming down the pike, and so as we've communicated with them, it'll only enhance our level of communication with our players on the field. You only get to communicate with one guy. We know that to be a fact. So deciding who that will be, deciding who he will communicate those messages from the sideline to, that'll be a part of it. And so we think at this moment is for us to just do the best we can with what we know and operate throughout this spring, just practicing in all the ways that we can for what we think may happen with that rule.
What are the attributes you see from Donovan McIntosh, Nigel Thomas in your room?
Well, what we've done in that room is we've infused it with guys who can run, right? I got to see just a little bit of Nigel on special teams and at different times during the season, And what I see is a level of toughness that he possesses. He works incredibly hard. He loves football. He understands the game. And that's another thing that we as a staff, especially from a defensive standpoint, is we want to continually raise our guys' level of FBI, of football intelligence. Some come with an incredible amount of it. Some come with very little. And he's one of those guys, as well as Donovan. They played in really good programs. And so they both come with athletic ability. Kanigel, again, just shows me an incredible level of toughness. Donovan fits into the mold of some of the cornerbacks we've had over the years here when it comes to his size. He has really good length. He can run. He's a competitive young player. And so I just think that what he needs is experience. He just needs time on the field. And this spring, we're going to do the best we can to give him as many of those looks as we can, because I've seen Jacob Parish play. I know exactly what he can do. He's played in championship-level games. He's played in bowl games, but I hadn't seen that from Donovan. I hadn't seen that from Kanigel, as well as a few other players. So I'm going to do everything I can this spring to put those guys in those moments that will challenge them.
Have you seen an offensive lineman or several step to the fore in terms of communication?
Well, I think at this time, Hadley has been a guy who's played around here for a while, and I've been impressed with him. I don't spend a lot of time with the offensive linemen. I don't compete with them. I don't get the chance to talk noise to them like I do with the wide receivers. But Hadley, Taylor Portier is a guy who's played quite a bit, and I see him doing good things. Alex Key is a guy, a younger guy. Sam Hitt, younger guys that I kind of see, they stand out. Andrew Leingang is a guy that I've been impressed with in the off season, as well as these few days as we go on into the spring. So those are the guys. Even though, again, I don't get an opportunity to be around them a lot, we do communicate, at different times. But I've seen those guys flash throughout the practices so far.
Okay. With Keenan, given that he is still fairly new to his position, does he still have a lot of growth that he can make there for you guys?
Yeah, 100%. Man, as a coach, they never arrive. And so even though I may say Jacob has had a lot of experience, well, in comparison to the other guys in the room, he has. Keenan has not. But Keenan played in all the games last season, But to continually give him the pictures, I think is important for him, right? And he appreciates that because he wants to learn, right? He continually wants to see different pictures, and so as we go through the spring, it'll be important for me to be able to give him those same pictures. But again, he's a guy that I've seen play. I know what he can do. I know how he'll respond under fire, right? I know how he'll respond, but I still want to give him as much as I can in terms of different formations, opportunities to communicate, because I think that just helps him to grow.
K-State this offseason has gotten a bit more love than it has in the past. You guys are the betting favorites in the Big 12 heading into the year. When you guys as a team see that stuff compared to years past where it's maybe let's prove people wrong, what's the attitude when you're going out trying to prove people right?
Well, I think it's important, and we've always professed this around here to our players, is that the things that people say about you, man, they're great, right? You say thank you. But your level of commitment to excellence, your level of preparation, it never changes. So when people said we would finish 9th, it's the same as they say we finish first, right? When it comes to what we do, it does feel warm and fuzzy when people say you're going to finish first, and it feels a little bit different when they say you're going to finish last. But we talk to our team, and we as coaches, all being human, have to understand that does not matter. That's why you play the game. You play the game because whatever someone say negatively or positively, it has no bearing when you actually go out there on the field. So, again, we appreciate any love that this great university, that this athletic department can get. We definitely want it in a positive light, but it never has bearing on the way we prepare. It never has a bearing on the way we approach our work day to day.
Last one for me. I am curious with Coach True, other than potentially putting us through a rigorous workout, what does make him such a good strength coach? It seems like he's really had a good impact on the team.
Well, Coach True and I have been together since his young days as an assistant at Oklahoma State. And, the thing I've always seen in him is that, number one, he cares about the players. But even more than that, when I talk about excellence, when I talk about doing the right things because that's what you're supposed to do, when I talk about the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, that's Coach True. And when we are out on the road recruiting, when we are on vacations, when we are speaking at coaching clinics or doing whatever it is we do when we're away from this place, Coach True has our team. And you as a coaching staff, you always want to make sure that you're leaving your team in good hands, and you're leaving your team in the hands that of people who are aligned with the values and the ideals of your coaching staff, of the program, and that's what Coach True is. So you guys, you can believe you will not be late again after this experience.
Man, it's just I'm going to strain your brain for a minute, but you go back to 2019, you got a young guy, a wide receiver, Keenan Garber, come in. I'm curious your first impressions of Keenan at that time.
Oh, no, that's not a brain strain. At that time, Keenan was soft, in my opinion, but I don't know, maybe most wide receivers, I would consider them soft, right? And so but Keenan was soft. He was not physical at all. He was a fast kid. He could not catch. He messed more things up than he got right at that moment. But even in that moment, I knew that the kid had talent. Even in that moment, I knew that he's a kid. He's a very young player, and even in that moment, I knew he did have something about him. And if he could hang in there, with the things that our program will eventually pour into you, then he would be a good player. Fortunately for me, he can't catch as well as some of the elite receivers, so we come over. That's what happens. Receivers who can't catch, they come over and they play DB. And so I tease Keenan about that all the time. Fortunately for our team, he has been able to manage to catch a couple of interceptions and find his way around the ball a little bit. But to talk about him back then, man, I thought he had a long way to go, and I'm excited that he has begun to realize some of that great potential that he has.
What was that meeting like? Talking about transferring him from wide receiver to cornerback?
Well, anytime a wide receiver who's been a wide receiver is not doing the things that he is, he came here to do, that's disappointment. So Keenan was disappointed about that. And honestly, the meeting was in my role as the assistant head coach. I was with Coach Kleiman dealing with a receiver who was dissatisfied with his play and his contribution so far. Well, then the cornerback coach came out and said, hey, I know they're not treating you right over there. Why don't you come over here with me? And honestly, it was a discussion that Coach Kleiman and I had to say, hey, man, listen, why don't we try something else, And Keenan said, I just want to play, which is something that I admired about him. I just want to play. I just want to help the team. And it started to work for him. He spent a little time on the scout team, and, wow, at the end of the year, he's thrown out into the championship game, And it's been kind of like one of his buddies, Echo Boydo. You throw him into the fire for some crazy unknown reason, and they take off from there. And that's why I think it's important as a coach that you never give up on players, because you never know when the light will come on for them.
What do you like best about the practices so far, and maybe what are your impressions so far, and maybe the momentum of coming off a bowl win? Do you feel something in the air about this team so far?
Well, it's important that you always push the reset button, right? The bowl game, it seems like it was 14 years ago, and it's important to let it be that. And that's, the way I always look at it. I'm excited about this team because it's a new team. And the way the practices have gone for me is I see a lot more guys, and I go all the way back into our off-season training. I see a lot more guys who run a lot faster than they did in 2019. And that's encouraging, that's exciting. But I also see a team that has fun practicing together. I see a team that when you go into the locker room, they have fun being around one another in a locker room. And, that's why you coach this game. That's why you play this game, because there's 100 people on a team, and you have to, as a coaching staff, you have to find a way to mesh all these different personalities and these different people into a cohesive unit. And our players, I am so happy about our players. They buy into that. They believe in that just as well as we do as coaches. And so that's what I've seen, is a lot of excitement, not necessarily because we've been predicted to or picked to be a good team, but just because we get an opportunity to be around each other. We get an opportunity to watch guys grow. We get an opportunity, like I spoke to before, to see guys on our team expand their roles. And that's, as a coach and as a player, that's a lot of fun.
Coach, you just led me right into my question. Thank you.
That's what I do. I'm a question leader into
it. Every team has its own personality. And this locker room from last year's team lost a lot of strong personalities, veteran leaders, both in actions and words. Can coaches help develop that leadership with the new group, or do the guys just in the locker room just have to take control and say, this is our team now?
Well, one of the great things that we did a few years ago, and it's not anything unique to K-State, but we created leadership teams within our team. And on these leadership teams, there's a running back, and there's an offensive lineman, and there's a defensive lineman, and there's a specialist, and there's a cornerback. And all these teams, they work with a coach who may not coach them. And on those teams, we develop leadership, because a few years ago, we kind of felt like we were in the same position, that we didn't have really good leadership on our team, and we needed to, as coaches, use our experience and use our maturity to develop some leadership on our team. And that program, it kind of stuck, and our players, they bought into it. And so it's been around here a few years is where we've developed some guys who may not have, like you talked about, been in the forefront as leaders. Austin Moore wasn't always up front, Katori Levingston, who at the end of last year wasn't always up front. Sometimes somebody had to drag him from the back to get him to the front. Deuce Green was not always up front. Deuce Green was not always on time to be in the circle almost. But eventually those guys, they made their way to the front. And so we as coaches, we play a big part in that development. But the leaders on our team, Austin Moore, he's instrumental in the development of Austin Romaine. Jacob Parish was developed by Julius Brents and Echo Boydo. And so we want to continue the passage of the torch, of course, on the field, but then also, like you talked about, when it comes to leading and making sure that everybody's operating at the standard that we set as a team.
Are you able to flex Rex Van Way between a couple of positions at linebacker, or is he at will, or what's his kind of outlook?
Well, the fact is that Rex he has really good length and he can run, and he's a very smart player. So he gives us, like you said, he gives us flexibility to be able to move him from position to position. The thing with a younger player is that you want to let him get his feet set, right? You want to let him learn what he's doing in one position before you move him to another. Now, those linebacker positions, yeah, a lot of times they do transfer. The information that you learn at will, it transfers to Sam, and it can operate as a Mike as well. But you want to give him an opportunity, Rex specifically, to learn what he's doing at that position and slowly move him into a situation where he can do different things. And again, we've had guys over the years who've been able to do a lot, but Rex, again, physically possesses some things that, not a lot of guys possess in terms of his running ability and his length.
What is the growth and continual growth that you've seen from DJ Giddens at running back?
Man, I first of all, I was looking at him the other day, and it seems that he's gotten thicker. You know what I mean? DJ he's one of the veterans now. He's an older guy, and I remember when DJ was a little freshman, and so to watch him physically develop has been really cool for me, and just watching him walk around the building. But as I've watched him in the games, last season, I saw him be a more physical, more punishing runner, whereas as a freshman, he just gets the ball and tries to avoid everybody. Yeah, I'm running through the hole, but I'm avoiding everything. Well, I think he can be a more physical, more dominating presence with the ball in his hand. Not quite a Joe Hall-looking figure, you know what I mean? But he's shown to me that he'll be a much more physical runner. He's already going all the way back to one of the early moments when he was on campus. It took us like 16 guys. There's a play where DJ gets the ball and he goes around the edge, and like everybody on our defensive unit hit the guy, and he never fell down. Even on the sideline, dudes were hitting him, late, but he never fell down. And so I was really impressed with that one play. Well, again, as I've seen him grow and develop into the last season and in through the spring, again, I think he's inflicting punishment on defenders rather than, standing there and letting them hit him.
If you can put on your associate head coach cap again, what position groups have stood out to you so far?
Well, for different reasons, there's different ones, but I've been impressed with the offensive line. I've been impressed with the offensive line, and why? Because got a lot of young guys coming into that room, but what I've seen is a lot of guys who seem to be guys who really work hard, who are smart as young guys, and who are because Coach Riley does a good job with that room of growing the leadership, and so I'm excited about an influx of really young guys, but have shown big time promise. I'm encouraged by the defensive backs because I'm around them more than anybody, but we've added a lot of speed to that group and athleticism to that group. And so I'm excited about that. And then, they're not a big group, but the running backs with DJ Giddens in that room, I'm excited about those guys as well. I could continue on and talk about all the positions that I'm excited about, but those are the ones that have stood out so far in the practices.